like dust. In verse 45, it says, "And when the chief priests and Pharisees heard his parables, they understood that he was speaking about them. When they sought to seize him, they feared the people because they considered him to be a prophet." So it's a similar instance here that Peter is that Peter's responding to them in. We see that the apostles are continuing to use Old Testament, Old Covenant scriptures and teaching to pull it forward and to say, hey, this is coming to pass. I mean, it was prophesied in the Old Testament that you were going to reject me. It's the same thing Jesus used. Jesus pulled it in. Peter's pulling it in. And he's saying, well, it's been written long ago. You're going to do exactly what you're doing. I mean, they're not going to choose to see it, but it's pretty clear. Back to Acts 4. Verse 13, it says, "Now as they observed the confidence of Peter and John and understood that they were uneducated, untrained men, they were marveling and began to recognize them as having been with Jesus." Steve brought up a point a couple weeks ago when I was talking about this on how, and we haven't gotten to this yet, but how there was a confidence in the apostles as the church is moving forward. There was a strength and confidence that that the apostles had. And it says here, now the Sanhedrin observed the confidence of Peter. I don't think it could have went any farther under there. Hold on a second here. I got to find the mic. That was a good roll, dead center. Yep, lights on. Okay. Yeah, I was talking about, Steve brought up about the confidence of the apostles. These guys weren't cowering down. They weren't hesitant in any way. The same men who put Jesus on trial and led to his crucifixion, the same men that are questioning them, they were confident, they were strong, and they were defiant for Christ against this council. What do you think would have happened here if Peter and John, were hesitant and, cowered down a little bit? Tried to talk their way out of it, or tried to just kind of wiggle worm their way out of it so that they could keep healing and, just to try to get out of jail. How could that have been different? Would the Sanhedrin would have acted differently? I don't know. How about the crowd or the onlookers? I mean, the people watching. If more important than the chief priests, I think the people that are there watching can see the confidence in them and the strength in the words that they're saying. I mean, actions speak louder than words sometimes. Whether you're, yeah, I believe this, and you're yeah, this is true, and their voice is shaky, and people can read that body language. I mean, how confident are these men if they act that way? Um, if they were to see weak-minded, cowardly, scared apostles at this point, at the start of the church, could have very negative effects. But we see clearly here that they observed that they were confident and strong in what they were saying and what they were preaching. How about being untrained and uneducated? That basically means they were without technical training in the school of, there's a couple different school, the school of the rabbis. So they didn't go to the school of Hillel or the school of Shammai. I think that's how you say it. You know, Jesus himself didn't, they regarded him as uneducated and untrained as well. So like Jesus, the Peter and John didn't attend any of the religious schools of the day, the schools of the rabbis. The leaders and the elders that had him on trial, they saw that they were strong and confident. They saw that they were untrained, uneducated. They knew they were untrained and uneducated. And what does it say in verse 14? They were marveling, or another translation maybe it's a little better. It says they were amazed at what they saw. And it was through the Sanhedrin sees that they're strong, confident, untrained, so much so that they recognize them next of the ones being there with Jesus. It says right here, and they began to recognize them as having been with Jesus. And here's the point I brought out earlier, Peter and John, they were untrained and uneducated in the school of the rabbi.